Hello and welcome to my retro watches. This is going to be episode 1 of a grail watch that I've owned for nearly a year and I've not serviced it. How bad is that? Of course you'll have seen it on the thumbnail. The watch is this one here. It's the Seiko Bullhead 6138 Chronograph. Now I've wanted one of these for a long time. They are like my ultimate Seiko grail really, because they're really unusual and very 70s. But they're quite expensive to get, but I managed to get an unbelievable deal off a good friend of mine called Quan, who knew I was after one and sold me this last year. Now it's not without its problems, and that's what we're going to find out in this series as to whether we can repair it and get it going again. So shame on me for not doing it. There is reasons why I haven't, because I'm just a little bit timid. I've not done a 2-register chronograph before, so you're going to watch this live and see if I either mess it up or whether I actually successfully managed to get the watch going properly. So stick with us. We're going to go straight to the bench now. We'll have a closer look at the watch before we strip the movement. Guys, just 1 minute of your time to talk about this video sponsor, a company called P. Son, who've been making watch accessories for a few years, and they've come up with this creation, which is a gyroscopic watch winder. It's called the Astronomia X1, and I think it's pretty cool. I've never been into watch winders before, but this one is an exception because I just love looking at it. It's pretty well made. It's made out of solid steel, comes in this chrome finish as you can see here, but there's also a gold one, and the glass dome is real glass too. Now it will rotate in either direction, anti-clockwise or clockwise, for 2 minutes, and then it stops for 8 minutes, and then it does it again, and it will repeat and repeat and repeat, of course. Or you can do it 1 minute anti-clockwise and 1 minute clockwise. So let's see it in action, actually winding a watch to prove that it does work. I've got one here with a clear case back, and you can just about see that rotor inch round all the time. Now overnight this will put pretty good charge in your watch, I have to say. I've tested it on quite a few that I've got, even some customers' watches that I've been servicing, so it's quite a nice little thing to use for that function, if nothing else, just to test your watches on. So if you want to get one of these, obviously check it out. There'll be a link down below, and let's get back to the 6138 video. Thanks guys. Okay, so here we are on the bench, and you can see the watch firsthand, nice and close up. So call it a bullhead, of course, because it's a chrono that has these horns, or the pushers, if you like, at the top there, rather than having them on the sides, which is pretty unique. Of course, Citizen made one as well, and it's on my list of watches to get as well, the Citizen one. But this one is really cool. Look at that angle it's got on it there, so when it's on the wrist, it's sort of angled and facing towards you. Absolutely really beautiful. Now this has seen a lot of action, you can tell. It's missing its sub-minute counter hand there, and the bezel here is extremely worn, to the point here that it's actually worn the metal away. Now what on earth could cause that, I do wonder. Is it just a cuff? So the cuff of whoever owned it all those years, just passing over that, or is it something a bit more sinister? It's very difficult to tell because it's still quite smooth. Who knows? Now I have got a replacement for that already. I'm being optimistic. I know a lot of you might say, well, keep the charm, keep the originality, but I want a nice looking bezel. I've also managed to source the hand as well. So I've got everything I need. It's just a case of whether I can service this or not. Now the watch will run, or does run, and it runs quite well actually. However, the moment I start the chronograph, I don't think it's got any power. Oh, it has got a bit of power in it. What will happen is the chronograph will run for a bit, and then it will stop, and it normally stops somewhere up here at the 5.2, and that actually stops the watch from working completely. And then of course if I press stop and reset, then all of a sudden the normal time starts again and works fine. So I don't know what on earth could be causing that. As I say, I've got a bit of trepidation because I've not been inside one of these before. I have had a brief look at the manual, and I guess really I should read a lot more of it, but I'm a doer rather than a studier, and I'm going to learn by just having a look inside. It's not going to be much dissimilar to a lot of the Seikos I've been in, or that's what I'm hoping. So hopefully I'm fairly familiar with this movement. Just going to see if it was going to stop, but no, it's going to continue going. So it does run for 5 minutes or so like that, and then it will stop. So let's first of all get the bracelet off, get it over, and start having a look inside. Okay, took the back off. Just show you the case back. Doesn't appear to be a service mark in sight. That's always exciting stuff. And the watch itself is from 1976, July 1976 to be precise, or at least that case back is. So here's the movement. Just looking for my pegwood. I'll just hold that up to the camera a bit. So at a glance, it looks good. What can sometimes happen with Seiko, certainly with these rotors, is you get wear here on the bridge plates, and that is basically the bearings of the automatic works are failing. So there's no wear to be seen so far, and this side of the movement is not dissimilar to a 6139, I believe, and I'm very familiar with those. So let's first of all, I'm going to remove the rotor, and to get the movement out I also need to sort the pushers out, because otherwise they'll spring out. But I want to take off the whole of the automatic works, because it's easy to do while it's in the case. And then we've got the pull lever there. That remark being in the light that I've got, which is probably different to you guys, I'm afraid, looks suspiciously like fingerprints on there. Let's just see if I can bring it up to the camera. See it there? Is that a fingerprint? Who knows? Could be. The joy of vintage watches, you never know the life they've had. Okay, now that's out. As I say, we've got to remove the pushers to get to the movement. They're held in by this ring, and it's best to push them in, as I'm doing, and hold them. And then we'll try and get the ring out. There we go. And then when I let them out, just let them off slowly. Because they're old, they're probably covered in gunk, so they don't spring. But I've had these on a 6139, and they fire across the bench, which is never desirable. So we remove those. And they're a bit grubby, but that's what I'm going to expect, isn't it, really? So there we go. And then lastly is the crown itself. First of all, I just need to pull it and then push the crown release. There we go. Right, I'll just flip it over, and interestingly it's stopped. Could be, I don't think these things hack somehow, or do they? That's a good question. I'm going in blind, remember. I don't think they hack. I think it's probably just the case. Actually, if I flip it over, yeah, let me just put the lock off. When I turn it, you will see. So there we go. It is stopped. As I said, it stopped at about 5.2. It's actually just gone. And that's where it seems to stop every time. So I bet if I stop the chronograph now, it would start up again, strangely. So hopefully we can figure out what that problem is. The exercise for this video, or this part one, is just the stripping down of the movement. Oh, I didn't want that to happen. I was on really stiff. And the concern is whether I've broken. No, I haven't. That's a relief. Again, you probably can't see this. I'm going to try and bring it to the camera. You can just see it sticking up, and that's the center second pivot. They are on really tight, these hands. They normally are anyway. And my heart is always in my mouth because you've really got to give it a bit of welly to get it off. Okay, so same repeat for the little hand there. Less of a problem. With that little hand, there we go. Okay, so dial off, it's just a couple of screws. So we'll take the dial off and we'll see what is on the other side. So it took a while to pry the dial off, but here it is. And those fingerprints are not mine. And we've got the number 66, I think that is. And that will mean 1976 for the first 6 and June. So the dial does actually match up with the case back, really. It's a month between the two. But yeah, a lot of grubby fingerprints, so that's interesting. And then finally also has this, which is just the space that the dial sits on. So let's get at the calendar works. We have the C-clip. And then this one seems to be quite easy to remove. And then we can get the disc out. And the disc is, again, every time I have my camera lock on, you can't see. I'm going to say that's patina. It could be something else. Perhaps we'll try a bit of Rodico on that and see if we can clean it up a bit. Obviously, it doesn't look too bad in the movement, just in the light there. Okay, so what have we got? Well, it looks a cross between a 6119 and a 6309. We've got two separate retainer plates for the date ring. We've got a star gear here to manipulate the date wheel, and then the calendar fingers as well. And then this will all be part of the same mechanism in the keyless for quick change. So that doesn't look too scary to me. So I'll remove these screws and that panel there. Just take the calendar jumper, as they have a tendency to fly as well. Okay, I've just noticed something. First of all, this screw here was incredibly loose. But I don't know if you can notice this. We've got these 3 screws. I'm not sure you'll be able to see. Let's hold it up. Let's see. The whole top plate is loose, like proper loose as well. My God. So is that just through use? Is that what happens to these things? Or is it something a bit more sinister? We'll have to find out, won't we? So what's the next part. So I've just removed all of the mechanism for that, so we'll take that away and keep that safe as well. So we're getting there now, making some progress on this side. I've got to watch these pivots sticking up because they're for the chronograph and they can be quite easily damaged. So we'll move this the date fingers. And then that's that little star gear there out the way. So we have the cannon pinion, and I think that's all there is on this side. And then what is under here is some of the chronograph works, and that's the bit that's kind of worrying me a little bit. So I'll just see if I can remove the cannon pinion. And that's not ready to come off. A little bit of an idiot. Of course, that isn't the cannon pinion, is it? It's the cannon pinion's at the bottom, and we've got to get all of the motion works out first. So my terminology in this video is not going to be spot on. I can tell you that for nothing. I am an amateur, and on this movement, a really big amateur. And I just hope I'm not going to be out of my depth. So I'm going to remove these 3 screws, see what's underneath there, panic a little bit, and try and take some photos and disassemble it as easily as I can. Okay, so here goes. And it's come away, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. It's come away with the hour wheel. So I'll have to just have a little play with that in just a moment. Let's put it somewhere safe. And then we'll take a little look at all of the levers in here. Get an idea for the positions before moving on. So okay, so this is part of the pusher mechanism, and that's like a hammer, I guess. That's going to push down on the minute wheel, sorry, the hour wheel heart, which I'll go into possibly in the rebuild, and that's going to start and stop the mechanism for you, and also do the flyback reset. So it's held in by a nice, what looks like a horrible spring. So we'll have a look at that in just a moment. And there's a little spring here as well. So for now we'll remove the parts that are easy to remove. This is probably the only nylon part in the whole movement. It doesn't want to move at all. There we go. I never understand why they make these out of plastic, these parts. And then perhaps I can get the minute wheel as well. Yes, so no problems so far. So let's try and tackle that spring. There's the trick, do it from that side. So I've got to try and remember that for rebuild. Now this I know from the manual is a eccentric screw, and I should not touch that. So I'm hoping that part was just going to lift off. And it does, there we go. And then likewise, I'm assuming this does too. Feeling like I've got right butterfingers at the moment, because I'm a little bit tense. There we go. And then we can see the keyless, which is quite interesting in itself. There's quite a bit going on in here. So that's all actuated on that spring. Okay. So what do I do here? Is that loaded on there? It does feel like it's under load, doesn't it? No, it just comes off quite easily. And I've got to look at that as well. That's obviously the brake. I think it holds the minute the minute mechanism. No, the hour mechanism. God, let's get it right. I know the hour's here. It's where it's like a brake, I suppose, holds it in place. And another part that my tweezers are refusing to get hold of. And equally my roddy go too. Alright, well we'll take this little spring out. Don't want to damage that. Good job I didn't undo that screw, because it's not a screw. Okay, a little less nervous now. This will be the bottom of the barrel. Now I think that mechanism is all part of the barrel. I should be more prepared, but I'm not. That's kind of like how I like the challenge, really. Try and learn along the way. Okay, so this looks pretty straightforward. We've got the cannon pinion to remove and the keyless. The keyless isn't particularly frightening. There is this mechanism here, which I am at this moment in time not sure what it's there for, whether that's just to hold things in place. It looks that way. So try and get that into my memory. It seems to be completely interlocked with that. And I see why now. Okay, that goes in like that. That's going to be fun to fit again. Had trouble with it moving around in the movement holder. Doing that, it's made the yoke spring come free. So I didn't really get a good look at the position of that. So actually this keyless works is a little bit more sophisticated and challenging than I thought. Okay, so we have this, the yoke itself. This little thing here. Chasing it all around the movement. And the setting lever. So okay, that's the keyless out. When I remove the stem, we can get rid of the crown and the winding pinion there. So it's just the cannon pinion, and I'm done, I think, on this side of the movement. So here we are on the movement side, and it's very, very familiar to me. This just looks like a 6139 here. So we've got a couple of tricky springs, and but I'm confident on this side than I was on the other side. So let's get the chronograph bridge off. And to do that, I just need to take the load off that part. There we are. Okay, I've got 3 screws. Okay, now we should be able to carefully remove the bridge. Just hampered on an angle at the moment. There we go. So we've got the minute recording wheel, the intermediate wheel for that, the chronograph wheel itself, and so on and so forth. It's a column wheel movement. The column wheel is just there. This is all the hammer, and that has a very easily loosenable spring. And doesn't want to just come off its post there. There we go. So that powers a lot of punch into the hammer and everything else, and you can quite easily scatter all the parts across your bench if you are not paying too much attention. So we'll just remove these carefully, of course. And this is the hammer, so we'll take that out as well. Now I can see, as you can probably, there's a bit of corrosion, and that's typical around the pushers really. The gaskets will have failed, no doubt, and it will have caused that. A bit of cleaning will lift some of it off, but of course not all, so we have to live with it. So we've got this other spring now to deal with, and again, just hold it down with a bit of pegwood somewhere. There we go. Really easily lost, those ones. Right, so in familiar to territory, so I'm not too worried now. So we got the, I can't remember the name of these off the top of my head, but they are what operate the chronograph. So they go in and out, as you can see. So when you stop the chronograph, these go in, and they actually lift the chronograph wheel. It's like a clutch, and that's what stops it from going. And I've just moved it a little bit, and hopefully you saw that. There was a little bit of power left in the spring, which has just been released. Okay, that's them out the way. And then just before I take the column wheel off, we should move the most important part, of course, which is the balance, because we cannot afford to damage that at all. Okay, another part of this watch, sorry, that's got really, really loose screws. What on earth is going on? Can somebody explain to me why screws would be so loose throughout a whole movement? Is it just wear and tear? Okay, so just double checking that it's the same as what I'm familiar with, and it appears to be. So to remove the column wheel, first of all, of course, I've got to take the screw out of there. Another one that wasn't even remotely finger tight. So what we have to do is move this actuating arm. I tend to just get one of my screwdrivers in here. It's hard to do because the camera's going to be in the way, and I move it. You can just see the arm moving. And then that should be enough to get the column wheel out, and it has a washer. There we go, which is now stuck. Job done. And finally, this little cover plate here, which just covers the escape pivot and I think the third wheel from memory. And once again, a really loose screw. Right, that is all the chronograph works moved. So we're just going to move this bridge now and get to the train. Okay, and just get the autofocus off. So on here we've just got part of the hand wind mechanism. I'm assuming that doesn't come off. Doesn't appear to, and there's another little gear in there as well. So I'm assuming they stay in position. If they don't, I'll find out shortly when I go back through the manual. So now it's just the train, Well, we have that there as well, look. Just another little wheel. So the chronograph wheel is especially fragile, easily broken, really hard to find replacements for. So always be careful with those. But the rest now should, in theory, be nice and easy for me. And then we have the barrel. Really interesting because it has all the mechanism. The camera is having a hell of a game focusing tonight. So it's all part of the winding mechanism there. So it's slightly different to what I'm used to seeing. This massive hole in the main plate. So one screw here, take the bridge off. Balance bridge removed. Just grab the pallet fork. The escape. Center wheel, and we are done. Woohoo! Right, I'm relieved, probably more than pleased, to be honest with you. That's all of the parts out. Bigger question will be, can I rebuild this thing? There's a hell of a lot of parts. I'm going to show you them in just a sec. The next part, in this video at least, we'll just do a quick inspection on the microscope of some of these parts, check out how they are. I'm going to cut the cleaning montage if you're regular and end the video after that, because I then need to concentrate on doing the rebuild video, which is going to be much longer and much more intense. There we go. Here's the tray of parts and screws. Every compartment pretty much is got something in it. It does worry me, and I don't know why really, because it's only the stuff on the calendar works, or this part here, if you like, for the second register that bothers me. Yes, I'm speechless. This is a really crazy video, I think. Okay, so let's get inspecting a few parts. So here we are on my new toy. It's a digital microscope. There's going to be a review coming very soon on this product because it's really good. So we are looking at the center jewel of the main plate, and I'm going to inspect a few jewels. Sort of, let's just see how good or bad this movement is. So right away we can see that there's quite a little bit of dirt in the center there. So I'm just going to fish around and look at some of the others. So again, you can see lots of old dried oil on that one. Whoa. Now that is the escape jewel. Sorry, not the escape jewel, it's the pallet fork. And look at the state of that. That's incredible, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess we are looking really close up, which doesn't help in certain sort of circumstances, but so dirt, and lots more dirt. Great. Let's just flip it over. And again, that's the back end of the escape jewel. The light reflecting through it there gives us a good chance to see all that gunk. Might look as if the hole is a bit rounded, but I don't think it is. I've got a digital zoom on here a little bit, so we can try to get really close in. I think it's because I'm on the angle, in fairness. It could also be just because it's full of rubbish as well. But there you go. That's kind of like what we're looking for on a main plate at extreme magnifications. But any of those little bits of rubbish there, little bits of oil and stuff, they're all left in after cleaning, then they will affect, I can't even say it, they will affect the running of the watch. I now can't get that one in focus at all. There we go. I'm still learning how to use this thing. So let's inspect some more parts. So here we are looking at the balance wheel and the hairspring. Same scenario here, isn't it, really? We're looking at the centricity of the coil, and they look pretty good, to be honest, but there is debris there. There's even debris or oil there. Now, if I can just take it out of focus, you can look right at the point of the pivot, and that looks okay. And then we can also examine the impulse jewel, which again also looks all right. Now, the balance to me is fine. That's going to clean up really well, and it's really important that the coils are centric, so really happy with the balance. So here we are now looking at the pallet fork, and okay, it's also covered in gunk. We've even got some fiber or hair stuck on this one, but I'm looking at the actual contact parts and they don't look too bad at all. Some of the gunk you'll see here is just the shellac, not really dirt, and you can see that shellac there where my tweezers are. And again, with things like this, you want to try, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it with this microscope, we want to be looking at the pivots, and there we go. We can kind of just get one. I can't hold it properly. We were looking to see if we can get those looking straight, and they don't look too bad at all. For me, hand is shaking like crazy, but you get the gist on that part, I am sure. So let's just put a few more on. Okay, so this is one of the jewel settings for the balance wheel. Okay, you normally have the jewel on the top of that with the spring, but you can just see in here just how dirty that is. Obviously, these I think get a bit more oil than most other parts, and it does congeal over time, and that will have really bad ramifications for the running of this watch. You can kind of see it all gathering there, and some of this will actually be on the inside. So I'm going to try and turn it over. That didn't work, did it? There we go. Now we haven't got a lot of light to look inside, unfortunately, and I don't think I can get these lights to do any more for me. Turn it up a bit. So again, you can just sort of see there underneath inside the hole that it's particularly dirty. So that's going to take a heck of a lot of cleaning, to be honest with you, to get that right. So now we're looking at the escape and the center wheel. And again, what are we looking for? Well, making sure that all the teeth are there and that the leaves of the wheel, for instance here, are not damaged in any way, and also that they are, well, you'd be looking to see if they're clean once they've been cleaned. Getting really bad light reflection at the moment, so I do apologize for that, but I would be looking carefully again at those and doing the same trick as before, just looking to see how they're straight. They're absolutely covered in gunk, look. And same for the center wheel as well. So we're just looking, making sure the teeth look okay. There's no damage to any of those, which there appears not to. Of course, we've got more fibers. What a surprise. And again, on the back end of this, we've got some more leaves, of which, just to my little eye there, look okay. So one more part. And we've got, whoops, this is the chronograph wheel. Now these things are really expensive if you can get one, so don't damage them. And again, we're looking at the teeth. There's a great big fibre stuck to it, of course. Checking out the leaves just here. And then you'll see on this side, if I can get it on camera, that it is quite a complicated part. Now, I'm not going to touch it in any way whatsoever other than give it a good clean. I was just trying to see if I can get a bit closer to that. There we go. So yes, complicated part, but it is the heart, and I mean literally the heart of the watch. So that's just a little bit of inspection. Obviously there's a lot of parts. I will go through all of the main ones, certainly the plates, anything that's got a jewel setting, to look at them, make sure they're okay. And then once I've cleaned the parts, of course, they're going to go back on this microscope and inspect them again, because no doubt this watch is going to take 2, maybe 3 attempts to get it clean. So that should be interesting. And then perhaps I might add some of that into the second video, because the next video in this series is going to be the rebuild, or at least some of the rebuild. So perhaps I can show you the before and after of these particular parts for your entertainment. See how good my cleaning is. So with that said, I think we better wrap this video up. So I hope you've enjoyed my first ever exploration into the Seiko 6138 chronograph movement. It's been full of a little bit of trepidation. I've been a little bit nervous, but we've got there. We've disassembled it. That's always the easy part. Of course, putting it back together is a lot more severe. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. It's going to tell Google's algorithm that the video is good, and it's going to show it to more people. Of course, leave comments below, because I'm going to read every single one of them. And of course, I'll reply to as many as I can. If anyone's got any tips, suggestions on this movement, then please leave them, because I will be very interested in your experiences with this movement. Of course, if you liked this video and you're new to the channel, then consider subscribing. And for all of my subscribers who are watching, please don't forget to click the bell icon and then click all, and then that way you will get notified of all of my videos as and when they go live. So thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for part 2. It might be, if you're watching this as it goes out, part 2 might be a little longer to wait for, because I haven't filmed it yet, of course, and I've got another couple of projects to bring to the channel before I can rebuild this one. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.